Hello and welcome to Better.com's review of the Ashes. I've been joined by our cricket expert Kim as we look back on England's 3-1 victory over Australia. Now Kim, being an Australian, is beginning to wonder what all the fuss is about. I mean, they're used to winning the Ashes, but I've tried to explain to her that it's so long ago since England won down under. I mean, let's face it, back then we all thought that Australia's best actor was Skippy the Bush Kangaroo, and as for neighbours, that was just the folks next door. Now Kim, before we start going through the whole of the Ashes, and we'll make it gentle, I promise, I think we both would like to pay a bit of a tribute to Paul Collingwood, because if one player represents the team ethic, it's got to be Collie.
Yeah, and I suppose he didn't have his best series in the Ashes this year, but, you know, as you've pointed out to me before, he's been a part of 3 Ashes winning sides for England, which is a remarkable achievement.
Bloody amazing achievement for us, I'm afraid, but yeah, exactly. And also, one thing I'd like to say, I mean, I think he was and still is, because he's going to be playing the 2020s, because we're world champions at that, and the 50-over game. Selfless player. I mean, I remember when we were playing Australia at Cardiff back in the summer, he just passed Alex Stewart's aggregate score for an England player, and he barely noticed. He was all for the team. Now, looking at the teams, normally at this point in an Ashes series down under, we play that lovely parlour game of how many of the Poms would have made it into the Australian team. Now we can switch it around this time, just for once.
Yes.
I'm going to enjoy it. Now, based on form in this series alone, how many of the Australians would have made it into the England side for you?
Well, I think there's 4 that could be in contention. And obviously Michael Hussey has to be the first on the list. And you'd probably replace Collingwood in the middle order anyway, if he hadn't have retired.
Sure.
Shane Watson's another one who has performed well. So consistent, didn't get a century, but so many starts. Obviously, I think Brad Haddin has earned his place. Whether he'd replace Matt Prior is another thing, but I wouldn't say that Prior's been any better than him in that wicket-keeper batsman role.
Sure.
Peter Siddle's the only bowler who could probably say consistently throughout the series delivered, but then again, who would you replace in England's side?
I must admit, I'd be controversial. I wouldn't pick Hussey, not because he's not good. There's been plenty of good players who haven't made it into a side. I mean, look at Stuart MacGill.
Yes.
You bite your hands off to get him now to play for Australia, but he couldn't get him because of Warne. I would actually be agreeing with you with Watson, drop him down the order and make him England's all-rounder in place of Collingwood, and that would really nicely balance the side, because he can bat well, he can get lots of runs, and he can turn his arm over. That would just give me the edge for me over Hussey. But if you're not, I'd like to have the choice. I'd have them both.
The other slant that you could possibly take is maybe Watson instead of Kevin Pietersen, because Pietersen, brilliant innings in Adelaide, no doubt, but wasn't a great contributor in the other 4 tests. So maybe if you're looking to slot both Hussey and Watson in, there's your option.
And I suppose, being a true Australian, you'll tell me that'll save on the transport bills, because we won't have to take both KP and his ego with us.
Exactly
we like
right.
him. Stop. We like him. Now we'll stop right there. Now looking ahead, obviously we've got the 2020s coming up, we've got the one-day series, and we've got the World Cup. But looking beyond that long term, we've got 2 sides who probably got slightly different perspectives now. England, they're number 3 in the Test rankings, and I think you've got Andrew Strauss and Andy Flower. They've been the men with the plan, but have they got the plan to take us further? Can they go to the number 1 Test spot?
Well, I don't see why not, really. I mean, you're back here in the summer. You know, you've got India and Sri Lanka, yes. Really, you've got the home advantage there, and you could put India to the sword and make some real inroads.
Now, obviously, Australia, the Australian media have been all over the team the last few days. I mean, I think something's been unfair. I mean, the Sydney Morning Herald, which is not particularly rabid paper, has gone on and they've had a front page saying something along the lines of the worst 11 of all time, which I think is a little over the top, and I think probably doesn't take into account that England have done quite well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think England have hit their peak as Australia have hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
Whether it's the worst 11 of all time, I think that probably is a bit harsh. There's a lot of players who were out of form. Ricky Ponting and Michael Clarke didn't perform to their abilities. They've got the talent, but they didn't deliver this time. Our bowlers, obviously, I mean, Mitchell Johnson, if you could have him in Perth every day, that would be the ideal. But we all know what he's like. He's far too erratic. So, I mean, there's justification in being disappointed and angry with Australia's performance because they really didn't give a decent showing in 3 of 5 matches.
Now, turn the clock back 4 years ago. England had just got, and I'm not, I admit it, we got done 5-0, and we've come back from that, gone forward 4 years, and look where we are now. So Australia are at a similar crossroads. Is it wholesale change, or grit your teeth and stick with what you've basically got here and see it through? Which way do you think?
Well, you've got to make room for some young talent, and that's where I think you've got to find a way to keep Usman Khawaja in the side. Stephen Smith played reasonably well today as England, won the Ashes, but he made a little case for maybe staying in at number 7. Maybe you need to fit both of them in and then replace someone. But I think they do have to blood some new talent.
And would you keep Ponting or say, look, Ricky, you've done really well, but enough?
Probably enough. My view would be don't do anything until after the one-day World Cup. Let him see if he can go out on a high and then maybe tap him on the shoulder and say, Ricky, time.
Well, thanks for that. And there you have it, folks. Just to remind you, in case you missed it, England have won the Ashes 3-1, and it all starts again in Durham in 2013. And guess what? Some of us can't wait.